You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is December 18th, 2024, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we're bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country, and this time around the world and in your region. And this is going to be a really special show. Our special guest today is the president of Liberland, and so we're going to get all into talking about what is Liberland, and it's a real experiment in liberty that's going on right now. So, anyways, and Vit is the president of that. So we're gonna get into all that. But before we do, let me introduce you to the panel. So in our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. Our upper right-hand corner, we have Vit, president of Liberland, and my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So before we jump into Liberland, we always like to start with a quote, and I think this particular quote is really kind of hits on the head what we're going to be talking about today with Liberland, and it is a quote from Thomas Paine. And Leon, can you bring up the quote? So this is a quote that Thomas Paine said back when they were founding the United States. And of course, that was a big experiment in liberty at the time. And what he said is, "We have it in our power to begin the world over again. A situation similar to the present hath not happened since the days of Noah until now. The birthday of a new world is at hand." And so I thought that was, a really good, I guess, discussion about the possibilities that they had back there when they were founding the United States and all of the excitement around that experiment in liberty. Well, I mean, here's an experiment in liberty that's happening it's a spot in Europe, and we're going to show that on the map in just a second, but it's near, I think, Serbia and I think Croatia around there, but we'll show the spot in just a little bit. But I mean, this is people who found a spot of land that is unclaimed, and they're going to try to start a liberty-oriented government that respects individual liberty. So this is a super exciting discussion that we're about to have. And there's one other bonus quote I wanted to bring up too, because I think this is also applicable as well. And it's a quote from Friedrich Hayek. And, he said that the curious task of economics is to demonstrate to men how little they really know about what they imagine they can design. And I mean, I think this is the excitement, right? I mean, you guys are designing an experiment in liberty. And I think, Vit, you're an economist, aren't you? Don't you have an economics background? So.
Yeah. I studied economics. I studied political sciences, a little bit of diplomacy, international trade as well. So that's my background.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the problem with most countries is a lot of people, they imagine they can design a country and they start thinking top-down central planning and they screw it all up. You guys are getting a chance to do something a little bit different here. So I think this is going to be a really exciting discussion. You guys, there's, I guess I'll show you webpage first, I guess. So here is Liberland's webpage. So you can find this at liberland.org. And there's all kinds of information here that you can find out about Liberland, and you can scroll through here. And you've even got people like, Ron Paul talking about it here on the page as well. There is other pages as well here. And this one talks about the formation of Liberland, and it shows the people who are currently sitting in the governance of Liberland, I guess. And if you wanted to find it on a map, here's a map of Europe. And so you can see here is Serbia, here is Croatia, and here is Slovenia, and it's right up here. And let's see, I have a little homed in thing. So I guess it's this spot of land that is kind of right near the river, and it, so I guess, what's the story behind that piece of land? How is it that you guys were able to come and claim it?
It's a very interesting place, which was not claimed by any sovereign state since dissolution of Yugoslavia. Basically, so the last known territorial owner of this place was Yugoslavia, which got dissolved and transferred into Serbia. But Serbia basically said it doesn't claim this territory, and they also said that they don't mind creation of Liberland on this territory back in the day. So that was very exciting news. Back in 2015, when we went there, we stick the flag. We got enormous response from international media, and then we got also a response from Serbia that they don't mind creation of Liberland. So we were thinking, oh, great, problem solved. But of course, it's not easy like that. We'll talk about it later. We've got quite a bit of exciting challenges with Croatia, on the other hand, which are not terribly difficult to solve, but they're ongoing, and it is one of our priorities within the formation of a new state of Liberland to sort them out.
How large is Liberland?
Liberland is 3 times bigger than Monaco, so it's around 7 square kilometers. It's really a perfect spot for starting a new country. We are on Danube International River, which is one of the biggest rivers in Europe, and we've got a beautiful sand shores that connect us with the Danube. So it is really I would say, even magical place for starting a new country, uninhabited, so we don't have to kick anybody out like with formation of other countries, and unclaimed, because neither Croatia nor Serbia has laid any claim to this territory since the formation of Liberland.
Very good. Okay.
It's interesting because, there are different people out there. They're trying different ways to, I guess, get a liberty-oriented state out there. And so some of the different things we've seen recently, obviously in Argentina, they elected a libertarian, which is incredible. That hasn't really happened almost anywhere. And so Javier Milei, that's sort of an experiment that's going on right now, right there. And so that's kind of exciting times there. In the United States.
Wait a minute. Do you realize
sorry.
that guy is actually Liberlander, and he announced that he's coming from Liberland to fix Argentina?
Oh, okay. I think I did hear something about that a while back. But so what exactly are Javier Milei's ties to Liberland then? Is he, I guess, is he forming intergovernmental bonds with you guys? International treaties, I guess, or anything?
Well, back in the days when he was running for the president, he was having this special outfit as a general ANCAP, and he said he's coming from Liberland to fix Argentina. I said we are not going to have standing army, but then we got a self-nominated general, which was kind of fun. And yes, he won the elections under that persona, and I'm quite excited that he knew about Liberland, and that he probably, or from other interviews, you can see that he knows very well what we stand for and what we are doing.
So you guys are already exporting liberty
Yes,
to Argentina. That's awesome. So, well, that's one case, but another case of what they're trying to do in the United States is there's the Free State Project, where a lot of libertarians are trying to go to one place and see if they can turn a state libertarian. They've been working at that for I think around 10 years or so, where they've been trying to, and I think they've been having some success. I think they've gotten a lot of libertarians within the Republican Party, I think, in that state, and they've been able to turn a lot of laws more liberty-oriented in that state. So I think that, we've had some people from the Free State Project about a year ago on the show. But that's one example. And then, of course, there's this experiment in Honduras where they're trying charter cities, the ZDs, but it sounds like those are sort of maybe running into some trouble. But that was an experiment that they were running. And of course, there's the seasteaders that they talk about trying to just find a space on the ocean and start a country there. And of course, there was sort of the famous case of the Republic of Rose Island, I guess, where they actually made a movie that's on Netflix nowadays. And that was a case where an engineer decided to just build his own island off the coast of Italy. And the Italian government didn't like that very much, but I don't want to ruin the ending for anybody who hasn't seen the movie. But yeah, so I mean, there are people out there trying to figure out experiments, but you guys are really the only ones I know of who found a plot of land to just, I guess, to start a conventional idea of a country from the ground up. So, I mean, this is really exciting. It's almost like the founding of the United States, where they got to write their own constitution and figure out the governmental structure. Whereas, people like, Javier Milei, he's having to tear down all of these socialist, structures within government in order to sort of push it more in a liberty-oriented way. So it's a much different, type of experiment there, I guess. So I guess, how did you get involved in Liberland? What was it that caused you to get involved in this project?
I was running a portal called Reformy CZ for more than 10 years before the start of Liberland. And that was an educational portal about economic freedom. And then we started also a political party that made it to European Parliament. Now there is some senators still representing the political party. So it's a hardcore libertarian party that is part of the Czech political scene. And, and for many years, I was trying to really make a big impact with education. We had more than 21 million views when Liberland was starting on all our channels. So pretty popular educative video channel for Czech Republic. But, once I met a guy that saw all the videos on our portal, more than 200, and he was still voting communism. So that was the time when I started becoming skeptical that we can actually change something through education. And by the way, there is this famous quote from Thomas Jefferson: "Educate the masses; they are the only guarantee of our freedom." So I was trying to follow up that path, and that at some point I felt like it's not going anywhere. And I said, probably it's better than to try to get elected and choose my politicians is to start choosing the voters as a more feasible way to inflict any kind of social change that would be leading us to the freer, more crazy world without too much taxes and too much regulation.
How many people actually live in Liberland right now?
Well, not many, actually less than a dozen at this stage, because we've got but that's kind of the romantic times in Liberland, quite a few people are moving in for Christmas, which is going to be exciting, but it's kind of difficult to live there without a developed infrastructure. So people are living on houseboats, and they are living on boats and in tents as well. But of course, the winter is tough, and it's freezing there right now. So, but anyway, a bunch of Americans are coming for Christmas and for New Year's Eve, and I'm expecting a couple hundreds of people to join the settlement yearly in the spring, when it will be much more secure and also much more fun.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I had a question for you as far as, I always like to ask people sort of what rang their Liberty bell when they're on the show, because it's a different path for everybody. But what was it that sort of woke you up to the idea of, the importance of liberty and the idea that maybe we aren't as free as we think we are? I know here in this country, in the United States, a lot of people, they go through the public schools. They certainly don't learn it there. It's all government run schools. And so people come out thinking, we need government for everything, right? But, a lot of times it's kind of an interesting path that people have. What was your path? What woke you up to the ideas of liberty?
Well, let me just first mention one thing. When we have only a couple of people right now in Liberland, it doesn't mean we don't have almost 1 million people waiting list, people that sign up for citizenship. So I'm not worried about not having enough people to coming to settle. It's just a matter of organizing them. And just to mention also, please consider the fact that even if just 200,000 people settled in Liberland, we would be the most overpopulated country on the planet. So we feel that everybody settled right now in Liberland will be 4 times more overpopulated place than any other place. And that also tells you something about the popularity of the idea, right? So we have to be careful. We have to be also very diligent with locals, not to stir up too much. I would say controversy with the local population around Liberland. That's why we are actually building a business center in this region, which really needs it. There is not enough taxis, not enough groceries, etc. So we're building a business center right next to Liberland, the closest village where it's really needed. But let's get back to the question which you asked. What stirred my interest in liberty? Yes, I mean, I was kind of uh, gravitating myself towards these ideas, but really the nice book that got me going, and I'm not the only one, was the Frederick Bastiat, The Law, which is an amazing book that was written in an amazing way about how the state has perverted, and instead of protecting people's liberties and properties, it turned the other way, and it's robbing people of their property and of their liberty, right? So it is this call to action, especially the beginning of the book, which really burned into my mind, and I just love the whole book, right? Because it explained, like somebody wrote it yesterday, what's wrong with the world and with the governments, yet it was written 250 years ago by a guy sitting in the French parliament.
Yeah, it's amazing listening to some of the quotes from Bastiat. How he just sort of nails what the incentive problems are with so much of government and central planning. So, yeah. Well, one of the I guess questions I wanted to see from you, because this I guess would have something to do with the direction of where you guys are going. But what do you view as the proper role of government?
Well, we really, of course, we started Liberland on birthday of Thomas Jefferson, so we want to honor the message that the founding fathers of United States brought about. We are literally modern day Tea Party movement in that sense, but we also want to innovate on that. And I really like the quotes that are on the memorial of Thomas Jefferson in Washington, D.C., where he says that, yes, it's also the innovation of governance that is very important part of human evolution. And we haven't seen too much of it, right? It's like we really had American Revolution and then nothing. So right now we've got this great opportunity to utilize these modern technologies to remove the middleman from the governmental business, from the bureaucracy. We can automate all these procedures that normally would take a person to put a stamp. You really no longer need notaries. The registries can be fully automated. It's kind of exciting. You can even use AI now for dispute resolution in the first stage, giving a very quick resolution without any cost, at least for the first round of arbitrage. So that's what we're doing. The counting of votes can be done almost frictionless without any cost. The budgeting can be completely transparent. You can see how the money flows through the organizations from the beginning to the end. So we have implemented all these ideas. On top of course, also changing the constitutional structure. We didn't just implement the US Constitution. We have taken the best elements of republic. We combine it with some good elements of democracy, which are not too many, but there are some. And then we also added the corporate structure element, which I think it's something for some strange reason that has never really taken off. Why the countries are not structured as corporations, for some strange reason, they're either monarchies, so it's like one single owner kind of business, or they are a democracies trying to look like one person, one vote, and there is like literally nothing in the middle. It was just the Indian company as a corporate structure which was organizing India for some time, but it was also literally the queen's or king's business at the time. So we are looking into integrating corporate-like structure inside of this governance, really trying to take the best elements of corporation, republic, and democracy and put it on this immutable blockchain platform that we're building.
So I have an idea what you're trying to do, but at the end of the day, what is your government structure going to look like? You're going to have a president, a vice president, or what? You're going to have a parliament or a house of assembly? What does that look like?
So right now we're very close to the final setup, which we envision. For 10 years, it was run by the preparatory committee, which was the government nominated by myself. But we have had a first elections. It was kind of exciting because the first elections were won by Justin Sun, and he's currently probably the richest ever prime minister on planet Earth. So it was a very very cool first elections from that perspective. That's the guy that bought this banana for $6.2 million right after. If you notice that news, because that really hit the news worldwide. But he's also the gentleman that immediately after invested $30 million with the Trump DeFi project to make himself an advisor in that particular project. So it was a first elections that showed that this political system that we have created is quite attractive and can be very efficient. And we also had 6 other people elected, a part of Justin's son. But these elections are happening based on merits, not one person, one vote. So it's a corporate-like election where everybody that contributed to Liberland basically got as many merits as their contribution, be it contacts or physical work or financial contribution. So we are a true meritocracy from that perspective. So Congress is being voted every 3 months, automatically on blockchain. The election is run again completely automatically, and next election is going to be on 5th of January. Any citizen can apply to run in this Congress election. We have a proper debate on Zoom. Everybody joins, then everybody gets 2 minutes to explain his policy.
I'm sorry, Vit, maybe I can pull up a visual right here. Leon, can you pull up the visual? Because I did have a link from one of your pages. I thought we'd talk about it later, but since you're there now, this is one of the pages where it talks about the voting, and it says you guys are going to have a Congress election on January 4th, 2025. So I guess, when was the first election, though, I guess? Because I wasn't sure if this was the first election, but how far back did you guys first have your first elections?
Well, we had a couple test elections, but the first serious election when all the citizens were informed about it happening and the system really was tested properly happened exactly 3 months before this date. So we were running this every quarter, so 3 months, just 1.5 months ago, basically, or 2 months ago, more than 2 months ago already. So this is the system that has now kicked in, and this is completely on-chain governance, meaning that all these procedures and the stuff that the people inside of the government can do is now being automated. So the Ministry of Finance is running on-chain, is having its own budget created mostly right now with our own currency, which is being connected to all the decentralized exchanges in the world. So we really created decentralized autonomous government, the first of its kind. Many people are running decentralized autonomous organizations for businesses, but we are the first application ever of decentralized autonomous government, turning it effectively into first corporate-like government in the world as well.
So, but did you say that you have elections every quarter? Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
This is really interesting because we've been having our elections here in the United States, and there's been all kinds of controversy around them. And for the most part, it's only every 2 years that we have our federal elections, and for the president, it's every 4 years. But it seems to be like we have people who can't even count the vote over a period of 2 months. And it sounds like you guys are doing this through blockchain, and it's all like instantaneous.
Instantaneous, exactly. So, and there is no debate about who voted how. It's all completely transparent in the sense that you can immediately see who is the winner, etc.
Wow.
But also the competencies within the government are being transferred on the second that the election happens, right? So it's all these processes with the transitioning of the governance is done instantaneously on the second of the final second of the election. So think about it, how much bureaucracy we have removed just from elections alone. And yes, it does have some cost for voters to vote, but we are literally organizing the whole election maybe for like $10. It's hilarious, even though 1,200 people are voting.
Yeah.
So how do you ensure that only citizens vote?
It's connected with your private keys, and the citizens basically the same technology like Bitcoin, right? So we know that the people, and by the way, we are actually today having a last read of the citizenship law. So the basic condition for citizenship is that you have more than 5,000 merits. That way you become eligible for the citizenship. And if you fulfill that condition and you're also approved in the system, then the system automatically recognizes you're a citizen and recognizes your rights within the vote.
Well, this is really awesome to hear about it. It's super exciting, but we're almost about out of time for public access. Before we lose the rest of that time, I meant to show a video at the beginning of the show with you talking a little bit about a description about Liberland. So, Leon, can you play that video right now so we can get that in before we have to leave public access? So this is KOL 1.
Imagine a country where you keep most of your salary, bureaucracy doesn't exist, and elections are instant and tamper-proof. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, wake up. This is Liberland. I'm Vit, the president of this revolutionary new nation, and we're flipping the script on everything you thought you knew about government. Traditional states keep you waiting for years on court cases and property transfers. Liberland operates at the speed of light. Our blockchain technology guarantees transparent budgets and tamper-proof elections. We're taking the best from history, limited government inspired by America's founding fathers, and direct democracy from Switzerland, and supercharging it with cutting-edge tech. Imagine police services as easy to use as ride-sharing apps and court cases resolved in days, not years. That's Liberland. Over 740,000 people have already applied for citizenship. We've got supporters ranging from the president of Argentina to the founder of Ethereum. Liberland is a real place, nestled between Croatia and Serbia, and we're open for business. You can become an e-resident and register a company in minutes. Join us at the Floating Man Festival this August or Liverpolko in September. Help us build the first state of the future.
So that was a video I think that was posted there about a year ago or so on the website. So
Yeah, and we're going to have 10 more similar like this coming up every week now.
Okay, super. Yeah, no, this is just absolutely. I mean, it warms my heart as a libertarian to hear that this is happening. But if you're watching on public access, you're going to have to go online to watch the rest of the show because that's all the time we have there. But anyways, on with the show. So, so Vit, I guess one of the things I wanted to find out a little more about was the type of government structure, because we did touch on it just a little bit, but I did notice on one of your pages, and maybe you could bring this up, Leon. I guess you guys are working on a constitution right now, it sounds like, or have you guys got that done? Because on the webpage it says you guys have some articles for a provisional government, and that there's going to be more details about the constitution to come. So where are you guys in that process, I guess, with getting the constitution finalized for Liberland?
So on GitHub, there is the latest version of it, and we are quite close. I would say we're 95% done with drafting it. Right now, we don't really need to put it in place yet because we are literally testing all the systems as we have developed them in practice, because everything is coded on blockchain anyway. So, I mean, the constitution itself is just a description of what the smart contract does, right? And it's the kind of the code is kind of superior because that's what decides after all. But of course, we do have some chances to influence it from a bigger, I would say, administrative right that we are keeping over the system. But we want to ditch that very soon, and then the only way for the system to change will be within the constitutional framework, meaning using the votes in Congress as well as in the second chamber, the Senate, to make the changes in the constitution that will actually create the changes in the code of this decentralized system.
So within the framework of your constitution, is there going to be a guarantee of rights? I mean, we here in the United States, of course, we have the Bill of Rights that lay out some of our rights. Do you all have some guarantee of rights like that in the Liberland?
Yeah, we do have a Bill of Rights as well. We have taken quite a bit of inspiration from the U.S. Bill of Rights. We try to put some things make some things even a little bit better and a little bit more protective. But it's actually quite a good list of Bill of Rights that the U.S. Constitution has. You can probably find it on GitHub quite quickly, the latest draft, and you can go over it. But again, that's not the place where we innovated the most. The place where we innovated the most is the structure of the government itself, which is a combination of the best corporate ideas, best technology, and best ideas from both republic as well as democracy. So, for example, of course, Liberland government is not allowed to vote on anything outside of security, justice, and diplomacy. We are not letting the government to regulate the businesses in the case that it's not affecting us internationally, meaning, of course, we don't allow people to mass produce weapons of mass destruction in Liberland, but otherwise we really don't stick our nose into the business. In Liberland, you really don't need any kind of license to run a business. Inside of Liberland, you just get the e-residency, so we know who you are, and you can do whatever you want inside of Liberland, which is kind of exciting. And so that's very important element. We have divided the state and the economy as the next evolutionary move for mankind. We have seen this division of the state and church in many countries, which was very useful, but we also are dividing the state and economy now. And we are doing all of this on a platform of voluntary taxation. It sounds like oxymoron, but that's exactly what we're doing. You can pay how much. You're very welcome to pay taxes in Liberland. You can pay as much as you want, but you're not going to jail if you're not paying them. And whenever you pay them, you always become the shareholder of your own country.
So,
Okay.
I mean, so are there? You said that you can set up a business and you could have any kind of business you want. Are there any businesses that will be forbidden? Any business at all?
Well, as I said, the mass production of weapons of mass destruction is not very welcome in Liberland, and there are a couple more sensitive other areas, like the biolabs and other stuff which could be potentially harmful. And we must not do that. And of course, the distribution and production of substances that could be considered illegal with our neighbors could also be under regulation. But otherwise, we really are not going to, talk to businesses when they should run it, how they should run it, how they should do their accounting, etc. We don't care about that. We're happy that they're doing something.
So it sounds
so
like
what about? I mean, it's always a big topic. What about the sale and consumption of drugs?
Well, the consumption of drugs we don't penalize, but the production could be problematic, especially when it comes to relation to our neighbors. We don't want to become a drug hub. That's not the area we want to specialize, and because of the controversy it creates with our neighbors, we don't want that to be happening inside of Liberland as well.
Got it.
So it sounds like you're very much oriented toward a country that when you said justice, it sounds like it's mainly geared toward private property rights type of a very libertarian type of view, that extending from you own your own body to therefore you own your labor and the products of your labor. Then, right? I mean that sounds pretty much like what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
would that be correct?
The whole constitution was basically structured in that way. That's the main logical line in that.
Okay. And then it sounds like when you guys are going outside of that, like this issue about production of drugs, it's because there's just some issues where you're in a world where you've got neighbors that might get angry. So you have to have a few rules that deal with some issues just to keep your neighbors on a friendly basis. Is that pretty much, where it extends out into some of those areas?
Yeah. And I mean, in this sense, we have to be realistic and, again, I don't want the Liberland to be the center of the production of drugs anyway. Like it's not the best industry to be associated with. So let's just make everything liberal, whatever is not super controversial. And we're about to host a bunch of medical clinics that are doing the therapies that normally are not considered standard. Let's call it that way. And that will be already controversial enough for us to have to defend it internationally. Even though it's basically just getting rid of some stupid regulation that prevents the research and development in these areas.
So what about law enforcement like the police, and what about a standing army? Are you guys going to have these things?
No, but as I told you, we already have a general that has taken over Argentina, Javier Milei, self-nominated. But we said that we will only have police. And Liberland Rangers are actually present there. You can see their location. If you download Liberland service app, you can see immediately where they are, what they're doing. And you can see that they're not just in Liberland, but they're all around the world. It's kind of cool because we have Uberized the security service. And it's not just for security, it's any kind of other business. So it's kind of cool. You can go right away, go to Google Play or Apple Store, just type in Liberland and download the latest version of our mobile business app called Liberland Services. And you can use it to protect yourself, because you can start a security incident in Liberland, which is being subsidized by government, because we do take care of security. But why not make it on demand, on spot? And this kind of subsidy system, rather than having a lot of full-time policemen, we can actually have people on standby that are ready to take part of any incident if necessary. And the closest people that are ready will always take the job. So I think that's pretty innovative, and it's scalable outside of the territory of Liberland. So that's why I have a lot of hopes about this app in general. So that's the Uberization of police. I think quite also innovative approach to the way that the security can be organized in a nation state.
So suppose, I guess, just as a hypothetical, so suppose somebody was visiting Liberland and somebody assaulted somebody else. How would that be handled? I mean, obviously, things sound like they're in a bit of flux right now, but I guess as everything starts to solidify, how would you envision then that would be handled by a law enforcement or police agency? Whether, I'm not quite sure how private or public that is.
So of course, you just go to this app, you click one button, and you've got all Liberlanders, be it the full-time security or the people that are on demand. They will all be alerted. They will be able to earn rewards for their involvement with the activity. Right now, we are mainly focused on documenting everything, because we don't really have disputes internally right now. Thank God, but we do have Croatians coming to Liberland and stealing stuff. So that's the situation that is happening. Mainly the police as well as the forestry service, which is right now the only way that they could deal with us. They were ordered by Zagreb to deal with us through legal ways, and because that didn't help them to prevent us from building rapidly, they have resorted to some illegal ways, even according to the Croatian law. So we're in this very funny situation when we are having to have to deal with this kind of uncivilized behavior from the Croatian side.
Well, suppose somebody came and they decided they wanted this spot of land to establish their homestead or tent or anything else like that. Is there a process for how they would determine, who gets to live where, I guess, at this point in Liberland, or is that still kind of being crafted?
Well, we do have now cadastre maps. If you go to e-liberland.org, you can see how the land is plotted out. There are not too many plots right now. Anybody who has some merits is welcome to come down and homestead their own piece of Liberland at this stage. So it's kind of exciting early days, just like the Wild West. Everybody is very welcome to join the settlement effort.
And Leon, if you want to pull that up, I actually just pulled that up online. So there's a thing, it says create your plot. so I, in fact, there's a picture of Vit standing right next to it. So yeah, okay. So yeah, that definitely sounds like it. Sounds like this is the frontier. This is the time, I guess, if you're interested in getting in Liberland at the ground level.
That's right. Literally.
Yeah. So I guess one of the questions I was kind of had too is, so if somebody wants to become a citizen of Liberland, then how do they do that? Do they buy shares in Liberland, or do they, or suppose somebody is a citizen and they have a child, is the child suddenly a citizen, or do they have to also buy shares? I'm just curious.
It's kind of exciting. Everything is now being sorted out with the citizenship law, which has a last reading just before our Christmas party in Prague. Basically, in 8 hours, we'll have the last reading, and many of these topics were sorted out. You can become a citizen of Liberland if your parents are also citizens, or at least one of the parents. So there is this opportunity, but you will not get any merits from the state from beginning. Basically, that means your voting power as a citizen, newborn citizen to Liberland, is 0. You can inherit your merits from your parents. That's a possibility. If they deceased, then you can start operating their amount of merits for the vote. So we're kind of inheritary structure from that perspective, and I think that makes sense. You can decide to. Anybody can inherit basically the merits, but then they have to go through the citizenship procedure of nationalization. But yes, if you want to become citizen, the fastest way is to basically support some of the Liberland activities, be it financially with $10,000 or with some other means, and you can literally within a week or two become a citizen of Liberland. We do have also a process for people that come to live in Liberland, and they get the citizenship in 25 days of staying in Liberland and actively working, developing the community. We even had like a 7-day program, which is still open for the tough part of the winter.
That's interesting. So
But
it's not just an issue of, well, Leon, let me just ask this one question. So it's not just spending money then to get merits, I guess, but you can also contribute work then, I guess, your own labor to the process as well.
Yeah, and then it doesn't have to be a physical labor. I mean, it can be any kind of support that people can give to Liberland. Sometimes things can be quite efficient. Spreading the message about Liberland also counts.
Sorry, Leon, go ahead.
So we could technically get merits right now because we are spreading the message of Liberland, right?
That's possible.
I guess it would depend upon how well we do spreading the message.
That's true.
But yeah, so I guess so. How are we talked a little bit about law enforcement. How are contracts enforced? I guess suppose not necessarily just somebody assaults somebody, but just suppose there's a dispute. About some sort of property or something in Liberland. Are contracts then, is it a private court system or is it a public court system?
We do have a nice court system, which we are experimenting with AI, how they are enforced. You've got these merits, and these merits are not tradable shares per se. You can only unstake or unlock 10% a year. If you are trying to get your taxes back from Liberland, it's possible through this pension scheme. And please take a note, it's not Ponzi scheme like in any other countries where they are literally collecting money from taxpayers to pay the pensioners that each year, which is complete Ponzi scheme. In Liberland, you're literally selling your own shares of your own country when you're getting the pension. So it's also quite innovative from that perspective. But what happens if you don't honor your contracts that you have and you create damage, for example, and you don't decide not to honor the resolution of the court when it comes to compensation, your merits become your collateral for your actions in Liberland, which I think is very important, also very innovative way to handle the justice inside of Liberland. So we technically have a opportunity to really, have our hands on our citizens and people that are part of Liberland community through this system of Liberland justice, which I think is very important part of the system, because today you really have just private keys. Everybody has their own bitcoins, and they have like zero liability to the organizations or states that they're living in from that perspective. And this merit system actually puts it a little bit back into practice. We have taken these ideas from the book The Machinery of Freedom from David Friedman, but there is an innovation. He was suggesting that people burn their currency in order to create their reputation. But why burn it if you can actually send it in form of taxes to your own state, right? So your reputation is created by amount of energy that you provide to your own country, and that reputation is at stake if you start doing some weird stuff, which is like stealing or destroying property of other people.
Okay. Well, there's, I guess one of the things I thought was kind of interesting is, when you talked about the relationship with your neighbors, I guess, and some of these other countries, in the nearby borders, one of the videos I had seen from about a year or two ago, or it was a few years ago, was it looked like you guys were having, there were a gathering of some people having a party, and they were, it looked like there was an encampment, and it looked like the police from one of the other countries was giving you guys a hard time. And Leon, maybe we could show that video. That was from some of the YouTube video that was posted, but that was KOL2. But I'm just kind of curious about, I guess, how smooth the relationships are with some of these neighboring countries. So Leon, maybe you could show KOL2.
Away our food. They're invading private space and taking away our stuff.
Hey, what you doing?
Nosi sve. Nosi, ne pitaj, nosi. Uopće ne pričaj s njim.
Please don't take it.
Do you have any court order, any documents? What you doing?
So you guys seem like it's a super peaceful thing, and you guys were building stuff, but sometimes it sounds like the police from other countries are coming in and hassling you guys. Is that a huge issue for you guys right now, or is that still something that is going on?
It's really funny, right? Like when you have a civilized country or pseudo-civilized like Croatia, and the only way that they can deal with their neighbor is to send their police to rob everybody of all the private property basically that they have right on spot. It just is a unbelievable situation, right? In a sense, and they have gone quite far in that. I mean, they raided us, I think, 8 times already. And this stage, that was, let's say, the most flourishing time of development of Liberland. We were building one house a day, and they panicked. That was the first time, basically, they panicked, and we are getting these raids ever since. Is that they panicked and they decided, okay, the only way from like exponential development of Liberland is we need to go there and rob them of everything that they have, basically. And this is what they did. They sent like 50 policemen there with 30 forest workers, and they took everybody's stuff, and they even went so far of taking like people's phones. They took a guy's bike that was riding it, and they steal it. And can you imagine how crazy it is if they really sent their own police which is paid to. This is exactly the funny Bastiat stuff, right? Like, but you have it like right on spot. Like somebody that went to work as a policeman in Croatia is being sent to rob people. So Croatia literally has installed 100% property tax over Liberland at this stage, which is not sustainable. I mean, it's not sustainable for them, and it's of course it's a huge, I would say, reputational thing for them to do this. Nobody else in the world kind of does this, right? Like in Gaza, sometimes the stories are quite crazy, but in Europe, there is definitely not a single country that would be robbing somebody else during daylight without a single piece of paperwork. It's not like they're coming to confiscate things. You have to realize, like, they are not coming to confiscate because of some decision somewhere higher up. It's literally a open daylight robbery of people, what they're doing.
So just government thugs, essentially.
Okay. So Croatia is essentially sending police officers into Liberland to actually steal your stuff. So what is your recourse in these cases? You said there have been eight incidents already.
Yes. So of course this is not viable for them legally long term. Like you cannot do this and at the same time have constitution which says the police can only act within your own borders. If Liberland is not part of Croatia, they have no business there. The forestry guys also don't have any business there. They're behind the borders of Croatia. The fact that they, of course, have now all this property piled up and it's a lot of stuff already. You know, they have to deal with it somehow also. And I knew we have to start this as early as possible because, of course, that's part of our journey to statehood. Right? We have to be able to learn how to protect our own stuff and how to start running over our own courts and how to really become a systematically bigger and bigger pain in the ass for Croatians if they continue doing this. So right now the damages that they have created are minimal compared to what Liberland already stands for. You cannot really get rid of an idea by robbing people on daylight. But we also are understanding that the way that they're doing this is that they're literally couching us. They're like a big brother that bullies us at this stage, but that helps us to develop. They become our mentors in the nationhood, and I'm very, very grateful, by the way, that all these incidents with Croatia, and I will knock on the wood here, have resulted in exactly 0 injuries. And I would like to keep it that way. My goal is to start a country without a single injury. So that's the fun part. And yes, we've got a couple buildings bulldozered. Actually, we were building this summer a medical clinic. They told us if we build from bricks, like not officially, but we were discussing that they are not going to come and take it down because they cannot really use police or forestry people to take down buildings. But after 4 months, they decided they will invade us again and destroy everything to the ground. But the project for the medical clinic is there. We are intending to build that as a first building in Liberland. We had a quite nice support from Sándor Habsburg, which is the heir to the throne of Habsburg Empire, which was ruling the whole territory for more than 200 years. Very exciting ally in this particular venture of creating a new country in Balkans, because again, all these countries were actually under the Habsburg Empire for a very long time until the beginning of the First World War. So we are building up our legal case. We are using all these incidents to stir up more international support, to contact more international organizations. So our diplomacy is also evolving quite rapidly due to these incidents. And we have something to discuss. We have something to discuss with Slovenia, which has also border issue with Croatia. We have something to discuss with all the human rights organization, which of course do take interest if somebody is robbed on the daylight. So it is something that the Croatians are not going to get away with that easily. And luckily, like, they didn't make anything too crazy, and they do rob us only every 2 weeks or so. So the schedule for their tax collection in Liberland, 100% tax property collection, is only every like 2-3 weeks right now. So we do have always couple days off before we have to get ready, and we can really make the best out of these incidents. We can make it super funny, right? Like, and last time they were trying to, I was there in Liberland, and we were having a T-shirts with the fan club of Croatian police. So we had all these big faces, the guys that were like the nastiest to us, and we made a fan club of Croatian police, and we were wearing these T-shirts. So they came to us and they told us we have to take it off and they will confiscate it. And then we said, no, it's a gift for you. You can keep it in your archive. And then you have a big problem. If a guy comes to you and he tries to confiscate something and you're giving it to him as a gift, he's got a huge problem. It's like you really get him frozen in that. But yes, we came to give you these T-shirts as a sign of friendship and development of our relations, and we can do similar stuff when it comes to these confiscations, and we are kind of above this, right? Like, we are here for bigger picture. We are not here for a bunch of wooden buildings or a couple of starlings lost, which they, by the way, claim it's a trash. It was the official statement that they confiscated the trash. So we let Elon Musk know that they consider his state-of-art technology a trash.
Well, speaking of which, there's it, and I wanted to bring this up earlier, but I forgot. And this is something where I guess Elon Musk also is kind of experimenting with an idea of governance as well, because he's been talking about colonizing Mars. And maybe you could bring up this visual, but he's talking about having to do kind of what you guys are talking about doing. If he gets to Mars, he's got to set up a government. So this is something that maybe he'll be coming to you guys if you guys keep him in the loop, asking you guys how you guys set up your government. But this is something I've heard him talk about. Where when we get up there, we're going to have to, the same laws that are on Earth don't necessarily apply on Mars. So I guess there are some I guess the richest man in the world is actually thinking about some of the same things you guys are thinking about. So
of course there is some synergy. And by the way, we right after anniversary, April 13th, there is a big camp of decentralized science, and the biggest one is, of course, the space exploration. So Liberland itself is kind of putting itself into the race, and it's one of the most expanding industries now in Liberland.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, yeah, no, it's a lot of interesting things. Who are some of your biggest allies in this? Because you talked about, I think, what was it, the Habsburg government or whatever that had been there before. But I guess, are there other people out there who are helping you guys along or trying to offer you guys support to get up and running as a country?
Well, Salvador President is yet another guy that likes Liberland, said it publicly. He's, of course, Bitcoiner, and then there is this connection, as we are also pretty heavily involved with Bitcoin for many years. So that's one. And, of course, we do have a bunch of people in different institutions around the world, from British Parliament to European Parliament, people that are in positions of power that they like what we're doing. So it's not like we don't have allies. In US, we do have quite a great variety of contacts, especially with the new government that is coming to, or new administration that is coming. I did visit Abu Dhabi now, where Eric Trump was. Actually, I just came back from UAE. We do have a good contacts to Donald Trump as well, and many other people in the administration. And as you have noticed, Ron Paul will be sitting on this DOGE committee, the Department of Government Efficiency. So he's our citizen for quite a while. So, like, Liberland is becoming integral part of the new administration in the United States, which is very exciting.
Okay. Wow.
It certainly seems
That's
interesting.
interesting.
So I guess what are your biggest challenges ahead to getting completely up and running? I mean, is it obviously you guys are still developing your government and everything? When do you foresee that this will be sort of look like maybe a modern city or something? I mean, is this like a 10-year vision, a 20-year vision? Roughly where are you, I guess, with this?
Well, it's gonna be pretty fast. The only thing we need is the creations to be sent there and robbing us. So whenever we can solve that part, we are all set in that sense.
Mm.
Yeah.
Very
And
good.
one of the other questions I guess I wanted to ask you as well, and this is just because it's such a big problem in the United States, but what will you do, I guess, with respect to homeless? Suppose you have people showing up and they just pitch tents, or maybe they don't pitch tents, but they just show up and start sleeping on other people's property or anything. Do you see there being a big problem with potential homelessness in Liberland, or is that something where you don't foresee any issues? I know a lot of it, it seems to be like in the United States, because so many policies seem to, I guess, incentivize to some degree homelessness, and also make it hard for people to be able to afford to buy homes in some places. But I guess, do you foresee there being much of a problem in the future? And if so, how would you deal with it, I guess, in Liberland?
I don't think that's a real problem. The problem is that Croatians are enforcing homelessness on us right now. That's the main issue. Otherwise there would be already a couple of skyscrapers if they didn't enforce it on us. So, and sometimes they come and they're like crazy to the degree that they also take your sleeping bag and your tent, and then they tell you, we came to rescue you because we feel you are cold because you don't have any tent, you don't have any sleeping bag, and then they are holding it in their hands. So we've got this really crazy situations with them right now that we need to sort out somehow. But again, like just over solving that situation, which can easily be done diplomatically with a little bit more international support, or it can be even solved by Croatians themselves. They decide they no longer want to rob us, that it's no longer in their best interest to come and raid us every other week. That's the only way we need to do. And yes, we know that there will be probably some homeless people in Liberland. They decide to camp there. It's up to them. I mean, if they will be really in the way of somebody or on their private property, you can ask the police enforcement to remove them. But on the other hand, we don't need to have a war on homeless. I think we can live with them quite fairly. But on the other hand, there might be a visa fee for coming to Liberland or staying in Liberland if we come to some big numbers. So there could be some cost associated with the presence in Liberland at some point, literally turning a whole Liberland into big adventure park, where the entrance fee is the visa fee.
And so the entrance fee probably eliminates that problem right from the get-go.
Yeah.
And this is one question that we definitely want to ask, because no libertarian would, I guess, no libertarian would forgive us if we didn't ask this question. How will you deal with the roads in Liberland? Who will build the roads?
That was one of the most popular pictures that I put up like 2 years ago. I think it was like 1,500 likes. There, I was there with the shovel on the road in Liberland, and I was building it. So that was the fundamental questions of who will build the roads in Liberland was finally answered, and there was me with the shovel.
But I guess, would there be a situation potentially with private roads in Liberland, or is this going to be something where people contribute merits to helping to build roads that would be maybe more of a commons type of road?
Well, the main thing that we also changed about Liberland compared to other organizations or states is that there is actually no public property. Okay. There is nothing is public.
There's no public property.
We completely eliminated that by design of the whole structure. So Liberland is a shareholding structure that only has a private owners. There is no problem of this this evil of sharing, taking care of the shared spaces, because everything has owner basically.
That does bring up a question. Go ahead,
So
Leon.
nothing in Liberland will be owned by the state collectively, essentially, is what you're saying.
Now, the state itself is a privately owned.
So
The
it's
state
as much
itself
as much as a corporation would be, Leon. I think is what is what you're saying, correct?
Oh,
So it's
got it.
everybody's a
Got it.
shareholder, therefore it's
Yeah.
not okay.
That's interesting.
But that does bring up a question. So suppose, I guess, somebody is an 80%, or well, let's suppose one person is a 50% shareholder and some person is a 0.0001% shareholder. And do they both have equal access to the roads?
Well, that really depends on the rules that the corporation that runs Liberland will decide on. But of course, the interest of the corporation is to make it as popular and as profitable to run it. So the incentives are clearly aligned. There is no problem with that. And you can see even in Prague. I'm actually heading to Prague a little bit later on. There are many spaces that have been completely developed by private investors, including the roads and water and wastewater infrastructure. There was no involvement of the state, and we're talking about 1 kilometer square places in Prague, right? There is I don't see any problem with that. When you think about it, even the highways in France, and one of the most socialist countries in the world, are actually private and are operated by private companies. So there is really no issue there.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow.
This did bring up one of the questions I wanted to ask at the end of the show, and this is, I guess we're pretty much getting there. And usually we like to have something funny too at the end, our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. And this question was going to be about monuments, and it had to do with a little bit of a controversy we had recently this year in the United States, where, actually for the last several years, we've had some questions over statues, but one in particular, near the middle of this last year, Nancy Pelosi had suggested that Joe Biden should be on Mount Rushmore. And we had a video of that. Leon, maybe you could play the KNP1 for us.
She mentioned his many accomplishments, including his forceful leadership of the NATO summit with other Western heads of state.
So he was in a good place to make whatever decision, the top of his game. Such a consequential president of the United States, a Mount Rushmore kind of president of the United States. Want to know what comes next?
That he belongs up there on Mount Rushmore. Lincoln and Joe Biden.
But you got Teddy Roosevelt up there, and he's wonderful. I don't say take him down, but you can add Biden.
But I guess this does bring up the question. The government puts up monuments a lot of times in our country, and the founding fathers didn't want there to be monuments to the leaders, and yet now that's sort of a regular thing. I was going to ask you what was going to, were you guys going to have monuments? But it sounds like that's a corporate decision. What's going to happen? But it has been a problem in this country that we put up a bunch of statues in parks, and then a lot of people don't like them, and then people start tearing them down, and it's kind of like, who gets to decide what messaging you're going to put up there? And of course, with Nancy Pelosi talking about putting Biden's face on Mount Rushmore. So anyways, but what do you guys think about this whole issue? And I'm curious too, Vit, if there's going to be statues of the founding fathers eventually of Liberland somewhere.
Well, I think what is quite exciting is that already the roads, even on Google Maps, are being named after our suggestions. So that's kind of exciting. Like, from all these dirt roads that used to be there without any names, now they have actually names. And the main street in Liberland is the Liberty Street, and the square is the Jefferson Square. If you zoom in into the territory, so it's quite exciting that already is happening, right? That these memorials are being put up there, not by us, or maybe by some Liberlanders that have some editing access, and actually it's confirmed by the Google, the biggest online kind of corporation that we're dealing with right now. So the recognition is becoming there, and the monuments are there just digitally for now, and we do put up the street names as well on the trees. And of course, the monuments is a big thing. We actually have a beautiful monument for Thomas Jefferson that we want to put there on the Jefferson Square once it is possible, with a nice quote from him. And right now we're considering putting up a big statue of banana, as it has become such a big symbol of our newly elected government. We have become literally a banana republic as well from that perspective, because that was a $6.2 million banana that our prime minister bought.
Well, in terms of monuments, I don't want any sort of vigilante types putting up monuments or taking them down. But I think if monuments are put up, as long as they are put up by our elected leaders or the head of the corporation, as it will be in Liberland, if it's put up by them, if these are the people that are elected to represent us, I don't see where the problem would be. Now, in terms of like Biden or Nancy Pelosi trying to get Biden on Mount Rushmore now, I mean, if she want to say, well, he was the first half-dead president we ever had, and that gives him the right to be on Mount Rushmore, okay, well, maybe I will have to agree, as long as it is labeled as such, that this was the first and only half-dead president that we ever had sitting and walking around in the Oval Office. That would be fine with me.
Well, careful, we don't want to get Liberland at war with the Biden administration on the way out.
Yes, I'm sorry, Vit. You have enough problems with Croatia. Really, I'm sorry.
Well, but it is interesting though, because it sounds like it would be the solution would be simply in the future, if the corporate ownership of Liberland, the people essentially who have a stake in Liberland, decide at some point that a statue should come down, then that's the organized system. And it sounds like you guys have a very fast way of doing it too, because you guys have elections every quarter. So you guys can decide this stuff, and without, and for about $10 or $20 in cost, the election is over. You can decide whether that statue stays. Yeah. So it sounds like you guys really have a lot on the ball, and have, really got things going in an exciting direction. Is there anything else you wanted to leave our audience with before the end of the show here? I would kind of give you the final words. Is there some place on the webpage that you want them to see? Leon, maybe you could bring up the webpage again real quick in case Vit wants to focus on anything for
sure, it's not just the election right now. There will be a nice, tonight, if anybody is in Prague, then there is a big event, big Christmas party, and then Christmas itself will be celebrated in Liberland Marina Mateos. That will be very exciting inside of Liberland. New Year's Eve, we do have a nice resort in Serbia for anybody that wants to come, and then there will be trip to Liberland. And people are again like moving in onto these houseboats. There will be much more people living there, even though it's freezing. It's not very. It's kind of fun. It's a Christmas time, and without snow, what kind of Christmas would it be? But it's not too bad. It's just a couple degrees Celsius minus, so it's freezing a little bit. And then there will be. By the way, we'll have a major event in Davos. Count with us for that one. It's going to be huge. If you are visiting World Economic Forum, one of the side events, and not meaning the main event where we are, of course, not invited right now, then there's a great opportunity. And then the 13th of April, the 10th anniversary of Liberland, will be the biggest event in Liberland ever. So we don't want to miss it. And we would love to see you guys there.
Yeah, I was going to say the World Economic Forum sounds like that would be antithetical to what you guys are about in Liberland. They're trying to figure out how to centrally plan the world.
That's right.
But we do have a Liberland house there, right? Like all the countries have a house on the promenade, which is unrelated to the World Economic Forum. They present their vision of the world, so we are there this year as well.
Awesome. Well, I can't think of anything else. So I'm so glad you were able to join us, and I'm so hopeful that you guys are successful with your project. And if you're watching out there and you're viewing, God, we've just had somebody on our show who's starting a country. So think about what you can do in your community to help spread liberty.
Yes, indeed, yes.
There's lots of people out there who are coming for our liberty, and if you want to keep it, you got to figure out what you can do to help promote liberty in your community. So again, thanks so much, Vit. And until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Thank you very much, Jason and Leon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.